BigHerc916, positivity, motivation, never settle for average. You know, we do it over here. One of the greatest minds of our time that's underappreciated, I believe, is Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell, and the way he breaks stuff down, his ability to put things in perspective is amazing. And this is what he had to say
governmental programs
about
are doing is
the
paying
welfare
people
system.
to fail. Insofar as they fail, they receive the money. Insofar as they succeed, even to a moderate extent, the money is taken away. This is even extended into the school systems, where they will give money to schools with low scores. Insofar as the school improves its education, the money is taken away, so that you are subsidizing people to fail in their own private lives and become more dependent upon the handouts.
Not only is he saying that the welfare system pays you to fail, but also the educational system. So if a particular school district does really well, and now they have maybe, instead of a failure rate of, let's say 80%, they have a failure rate of 60. There might be a difference in maybe the funding, because they said, well, you guys are doing better, so we don't need to give you as much funds for your school district, because maybe another school district can use that money because they have a higher failure rate. And so a lot of times they're saying that schools and these particular educational programs are built to fail so that they can continue getting the funding. And it makes sense, man. It makes sense, because this whole scam game of getting federal funds for these programs, they're not really looking to elevate those who should be benefiting from the programs, because once they elevate, there's no dependency. And everything about the government is about dependency. Social Security, welfare, EBT, SNAP. Everybody's crying about all that shit, right? But like, if you are able to say use it to get ahead and get off of it, you don't need it. You don't need the government, and they're not in your business. See, when you're on the SNAP and EBT and WIC and all that stuff, you have to fill out all this paperwork. You can't have a father in the house. You have to show that you're not really working, you're dependent. So, you know, if you get a job, if you're out here, if you got a side hustle, you know, anything they can consider as an income, then they cut your benefits. So how does that inspire anybody to do better for themselves if their mentality is, I'm going to get something for nothing? You're promoting mothers to have kids out of wedlock. You're promoting, fatherless households. You're endorsing laziness and non-participation, because if I can make, 2,000 something in food benefits a month, but if I go to work and after I pay my bills, I only have 500. Well, does it make sense to go to work if I'm getting less money to spend on food, and as a result, I'm losing certain benefits? So this whole game is a scam, man. And a lot of people don't want to hear it, and they want to continue to think that the government is doing them a favor. And the mentality is, something for nothing is a good thing. And so all these people are bragging about how much they're getting on their food stamps, how much they have on their EBT card. And that's not something you should be proud of. If you have to use it to get ahead, cool. If you use it because maybe you had some hardship, but it shouldn't be a career path. EBT, welfare, WIC, lack of education, those shouldn't be career goals. It shouldn't be life goals. Being productive. And I hear a lot of stuff, going back to just, personal performance. And, another thing they're saying about AI taking a lot of jobs, and they were saying like, well, AI is going to take these jobs. People have more time to be creative now. We'll see new innovations. A lot of people, at the end of the day, really don't want to do a whole lot of anything, but they want the same thing you have that you worked hard for. If you get up and bust your ass, if you went to school to become a doctor or an engineer, or you weld or you build or you do contracting work, why should somebody who sits on their ass, who doesn't get up in the morning, who has no discipline, why should they earn the same amount of money you earn? Why should they be entitled to what you bust your ass for and they've done nothing to earn it? I don't think they should. That's why when they talk about a universal income and this socialistic type of uh, economy, it never works, and it's garbage because you now are trying to say that everybody is equal, and we're not all equal. There's people I'm not equal to, and people that's not equal to me. We're not all equal. We might have similar body functions, but as far as drive, ambition, innovation, um, moral values, uh, wanting to look out for one another as far as your fellow man or woman, not everybody thinks the same. So we're not all on the same playing field, and we shouldn't all be entitled to the same thing because somebody in the government says we're going to implement free this and free that for everybody, and you are going to be taxed more because you've worked harder, but you should be giving more to the people who haven't applied themselves because they just don't have the ability or drive. Well, I understand there are certain people maybe who don't have the ability because of maybe certain, maybe psychological things, but or mental, but hey, to say that somebody who does nothing and just purely exists deserves what you have. Now, if that person wants to get on top of involved in the government and get in one of those programs and the government wants a system, then the government controls them. That's what it is. See, everybody, you want something, but you don't want no control. You want, give me all this stuff, but let me do what I want. And on top of it, somebody who's busted their ass, if there's something they have that you want, you should be able to go get that too. It doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't add up. And God bless Thomas Sowell for spitting so much game. And the fact that he's not one of the biggest voices on social media is really an injustice because so many people could learn from what he's studied, what he's lived through, what he's experienced. And, you know, if we want to really advance society on a level where we're going to all grow, then everybody has to apply themselves. And the fact is, not everybody is going to apply themselves. Some people are going to do the minimum, just enough to make it seem like they're participating to get the benefits, but they're not really applying anything that's going to enhance or shift the direction of anything that's going on. And that's just how it is. And so when anybody starts preaching, we're going to have everybody this and that, they love that because that means they can sit on their ass and get what you're getting without having to leave the house, without having to leave the bed, without having to leave the couch. And that's why in a larger sense or in a larger model, a lot of what you see in America is basically self-induced. People want to get something for nothing. They see people that have things and they think, well, it's not fair, blah, 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 but they don't want to communicate with those people. They don't want to do maybe something extra or network or build or apply themselves because that's responsibility. See, when you start doing things that require energy, it requires change. Change requires you to apply effort. Effort requires energy. Now, that energy, a lot of people don't want to utilize because they don't want to get up and do shit. I've seen it even in jail, man. People sit around and they're not studying the law, could be researching their case, maybe getting rid of an old prior, doing anything to lessen their time. You know what? Most of the people who go to prison are just cool with the time they got. They don't even question it. And it's no different in society. Most people have accepted whatever whatever reality, and that's it. And if you start trying to tell them otherwise, they don't want to hear it. They can even possibly become violent against you if you continue to impose on their paradigm, on their world. So, man, being paid to fail is a part of the culture for a lot of people, and they're cool with it. But yet they want to get mad at you, or they want to justify when somebody's violating somebody who's worked harder because that person said they needed it, or whatever the case may be. And that's not how life works, man. So leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. If you've ever listened to Thomas Sowell and the concept of being paid to fail, how true is that? BigHerc916. Forget to stop by the BigHerc916 store and pick you up a sticker for your car, or a patch, or a sticker for your laptop, or maybe a beanie, or read one of the many books that BigHerc916 has authored. Happy holidays. Christmas is right around the corner. And I was just talking with some of my elf buddies, and they said they got a list of all the houses that are funky and stanky. And they said they're not delivering gifts to those houses. So if you want to make sure you get your Christmas gifts from Santa, go to BigHerc916.com, pick you up a bar of wash your ass soap, and treat your family so that they will get surprises from Santa this Christmas.